The Australian Grand Prix is right around the corner, and Mercedes fans may finally get a chance to hear some good news this weekend. The Silver Arrows are giving it their all back at their factory after a mediocre start to the season, and there may be some changes that come to the car during the race in Melbourne, which may help them turn their fate around. The team has released information on why they expect the W14 to fare better in Melbourne than it did in the first two races, and in this video I will take a deep dive into what Mercedes believes in and what we could realistically expect from the race. Firstly, Mercedes has already made it clear that they are not aiming to challenge Red Bull at the moment. They accept that their car is not fast enough yet to catch up to the two RB19s and are instead focusing on being the second fastest on track. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff also believes that the Brackley-based team is currently out of contention for this year's World Championship. During a press release, he spoke about the team's goals for this year and reinstated that they will still give their all to score victories this year. He said, "We have only done 2 races this year, but is it realistic that we will be challenging at the front when you look at the size of the gap to Red Bull? No, it's not. We will give everything we have and see what happens. We were able to make up a lot of ground over the course of the season last year. We got closer and closer to Red Bull and were able to compete for race wins by the end of the season. I think that has to be our goal for this year." This clearly shows that, for now, Mercedes is not focusing on making their way to the top of the podium. Instead, they aim to get slowly closer to Red Bull and be the second best for now, even though it may be a tough pill to swallow for both fans and team members. Mercedes driver George Russell also reinstated this during a media briefing recently. His view is that the track in Melbourne is more similar to the one in Jeddah, and they will try to fight for a podium as the track will be less punishing on the car's central issue, tire degradation. The car is hard work to get into the right window, and it's not as easy for the drivers as it needs to be, but we've certainly found a better balance than in Bahrain, and it has been a lot kinder on its tires, he said. "We're under no illusion that we have a lot of work to do. We've been busy at the factory searching for performance, and the initial findings are encouraging, which gives us the motivation to keep working hard to improve. We're looking forward to the next race in Melbourne. It's closer in characteristics to Saudi than Bahrain, so hopefully we'll have a car that we can fight for a podium. If there is any more performance that we can bring, we'll make sure we get it to the track." He also hinted at the team introducing some changes to the car before the race, all in an attempt to cover lost ground and catch up to others on the track. The main competition they face currently is Ferrari and Aston Martin, with all 3 teams putting down similar times on the track in the first 2 races. In Bahrain, Ferrari was faster, but in Jeddah, the Mercedes proved to be the superior car, and Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin was quicker than both teams in both races. It will be crucial to see the dynamics in Melbourne and what team will eventually win out of the 3-way deadlock this time. If Russell is to be believed and the track in Melbourne is similar to Jeddah, then Mercedes might be able to beat Ferrari again. As the prancing horses showed feeble pace in the Saudi Grand Prix. The wild card, however, is still Fernando Alonso, whose car also uses a Mercedes engine. The team showed great improvement over the winter, and Fernando Alonso has managed to take the vehicle to a whole new level with his more than 2 decades of experience. The AMR 23 managed to beat Mercedes in Jeddah. However, the gap was not as large, and Australia might be different if the cars played into Mercedes' hands. The track in Australia is much more focused on the front of the car, just like Jeddah, and is one of the faster tracks on the calendar. These conditions have always favored the Mercedes, as their vehicle is made to drive better on faster corners and straights. It is hence safe to assume that the Mercedes will be by no means slow and could give serious competition to Fernando Alonso. Before I talk more about Mercedes' expectations in Australia, please consider liking this video and subscribing to this channel, as it means a lot and helps us bring more F1 news every day. Mercedes technical director Mike Elliott also has high hopes for the Australian Grand Prix and believes it might be a small step forward for the team. He stressed that the team is still in a learning phase and it will take time for them to return to the top of the podium. "Firstly, our main aim at the moment is to continue learning," he said. "We've only had 2 races so far. It's really difficult to build trends from that. And really what we are concentrating on is trying to work out how do we keep moving forward. Can we make that next little step? Can we gain some more understanding that is going to help us to recover? In terms of the actual characteristics of the circuit, Australia is probably front-limited and probably more like Jeddah than Bahrain. So let's hope that we can find another small step forward, get a bit more competitive, find the learning that is going to help us move forward in the long term. He talked further about the effort the factory is putting into making sure the team does better in future races. Obviously, Bahrain was a real reality check, and to find ourselves in the position we find ourselves in, not being competitive, was a real disappointment, said Elliott. A disappointment for the whole team. But you have to get yourself through that, and you have to turn that into, what are we going to do about it? How are we going to bring the sort of energy, and what are we capable of doing? How are we going to move ourselves forward? How are we going to get ourselves back in the fight? And actually, walking around the factory, there is a huge amount of energy. There is a huge amount of work going on. We are starting to see some of the development come through already that is going to get us back into this championship fight, said Elliott. And all we can do is just keep pushing. And actually, I've been really pleased to see the attitude in the team. What do you think about this situation? Will Mercedes be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel in Melbourne, or will it only be more bad news for them? Let us know your thoughts by commenting on this video. Whatever way Australia may go, there are many more races left in the season, and many more upgrades are coming to the W14. Specifically, the team aims to release a major upgrade package in Imola in May, which is rumored to include a new side pod design for the car. It was previously also stated by Toto Wolff that the team will change its concept for the vehicle, and that the new version of the W14 will head in a different direction. George Russell recently talked about the mistakes Mercedes made with this car and the new path the team will be taking. He also mentioned Hamilton's recent claim regarding the lack of the driver's input in the design of the W14. He told reporters, "I think many people accepted that these decisions weren't right. But nobody is pointing fingers and blaming them for making decisions that were made with the best intention and with the info we had. I think when it comes to car concepts, when it comes to decisions of where, let's say, a team of 2,000 people are going to be heading, it's never one person directing that. You've got probably senior 6 technical people who work together with all the knowledge we have, with everybody who's beneath them, the knowledge that's coming from the drivers, the work we've done on the simulator, and those decisions are sort of passed by and agreed upon by everybody. We were aware of the concept, Lewis and I, and we did believe that this was the right direction. But we as a team have clearly missed something that happened over the winter, and we're working as hard as we can to rectify that now. The newer version of the W14 might turn a stone for the team's fate and would help reduce the gap between Red Bull and Mercedes. Even though Wolff has admitted that they are out of the championship already, anything can happen in Formula One, as we have seen in the past. Furthermore, even if they do not win the title this year, they will gain important information for next year, which may finally be the year we see Lewis Hamilton win his 8th championship. The Australian Grand Prix will also be interesting to watch. It is clear that no one will be able to catch up to the Red Bulls. They are just too quick this season, and no team can manage such significant improvement in 2 weeks. However, the 3rd spot on the podium is all up for grabs at this point. We could see any driver from Aston Martin, Ferrari, or Mercedes, or even Alpine, honestly, be able to step on that crucial spot, and only time will tell who that driver is. Who do you think will be on the podium in Australia? Also, let us know about your thoughts on the future of Mercedes this season, and what we will be able to see from the Silver Arrows.